Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining today, everybody. And if this is your first time here, hey, why not check out the information, see if this is your vibe, see if you learn something? Maybe you want to stick around and be friends long term. For today's review, we are on a journey to explore the entirety of the shelf. Top shelf, bottom shelf. I want to do reviews of everything. So for today, we have the JW Dant. This is a bottled in bond product coming out of Heaven Hill. And man, I'm excited to break this one down with you. I don't know if you've heard of this one before, but this only costs $16 and it gives a lot of good flavor. So let's see what those flavors are and break it down together. Thanks for joining, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right. For today's premium pour, we're going to put it in one of my favorite Glens. I got this frosted Bourbon Junkies Glen. Man, do I love these frosted Glens. Aren't these things sexy? I have completely shattered 2 of these so far, by the way. So, of all the Glens that I have, I keep breaking these. But at least I got this one left. So, for today, as I mentioned, we have the 100 proof bottle and bond JW Dant. This costs $16. It's sitting there on the bottom shelf at my Northern Kentucky stores. And I wanted to break this one down with everybody because, as we explore the range of bottles on the shelf, hitting things that are $15, $16 versus $30 versus 45 versus 80, versus 100 versus 200. What's all that mean? Are we actually paying for a better experience when we escalate the dollars to that degree, or are we just shooting ourselves in the foot spending this much money on bourbon? Well, that's what the scoring system's for. So we can plot these things and figure out, does price equate to overall score? We'll be doing a review on that soon, or a video on that soon. But for today, we got the JW Dant. Before I go into this one too, I got to do a correction on a prior video. I went into this whole story about how Darrell, Kelsey, and I, Perry too, from My Bourbon Podcast, were at the Heaven Hill Experience Center. And the bartender ended up pouring me a blind pour. And, I was like bragging about how I knew what the blind pour was, and it was JW Dant. The moment I got done recording that video, I thought, oh crap, it was actually JTS Brown and it wasn't JW Dant. And I know if there's anyone that's going to call me out for it, it's going to be Kelsey. And I think it literally took him about 120 seconds after I posted that video to call me out for it. So it was the JTS Brown. But that just means I have to buy a JTS Brown now, too. But for today, let's get into the JW Dant. Thanks for joining, everybody. Cheers. So on the nose of this one, really comes across very corn forward. I would even equate it to grilling corn. That's something I love to do when I'm grilling during the summer is to grill the corn. Now, this would be the husk and all when I say that. So there's a little bit of not a hay note, but just a vegetable note. And it's grilled as well. It's charred. So I would compare it to the husk of the skin of the corn. So you're doing all of that. A slight peanut shell, and the also comes across for the oak that comes across, it actually comes across as almost like a freshly sawed wood. So workshop, sawdust, fresh 2x4, that type of a smell. The other thing I find, which I actually do find exciting, if you got to dig for it a little bit, I think there's a little slight blueberry on the end of the nose if you go digging for it. And at least in my prior notes when I did the review, I found that note on the finish as well. We'll see if I find it today. That's about it though. So kind of note the what I'm talking about. We just got corn, grilled corn, sawdust, a little nuttiness, and maybe a little fruit, but not a whole lot of sweetness here. Not a whole lot of what I would say the typical inviting flavors, but nothing off-putting. All right, let's get into the palate. Hmm. What I like the most about this particular pour is the mouthfeel. Man, the mouthfeel is really, really good. It is nice and creamy. It is coating. It is oily. Feels really good on the tongue, just to kind of whip around and just feel it coat, all parts of the palate and the sides of the palate, etc. Flavor wise, initially, it is very sweet, mostly equate it to a candy corn. Uh, some generic sugar or rock candy sweetness comes through up front. And then, yeah, ultimately, just that creaminess is what's so inviting about it. Let's get into mid palate. Mid palate, this thing is straight peanut butter brittle. So, peanut brittle, not peanut butter brittle, peanut brittle. The caramel really shines through as well. It is just uber sweet. And once again, for this, there's no youthfulness to it. It is just nice and sweet and candy. Now, very simple candy. There's not a lot of complexity here, but man, this is really good. On the finish, peanut brittle still. I swear that blueberry note's there at the tail end of the finish. I'm getting it right now. I'm getting that blueberry again. Hmm. But that's it. Um, I'm gonna go in for one more sip, see if I find anything else. But that is essentially what this pour is. There's just not a whole lot of depth or complexity to it, but what it does very well. Hmm. Yeah, that's great. I enjoy that quite a bit. So let's pull up the scores then on the JW Dant. All right. So here at Hello Again Whiskey Friends, we do break things down using a scoring system that essentially has three overall categories. Now, there's a whole bunch of metrics behind the scenes that go into these, but this is a good way to summarize it as flavor, experience, and value. Flavor is just how enjoyable it was each step of the way. Experience gets into that more technical score when it does come to the complexity, the mouthfeel, the length of the finish. Speaking of length of the finish, I'm still tasting this thing. Um, and then ultimately, it all rolls up into a value score and just gets a perfect score for being 16 bucks on that one. So all in all, you're looking at a 62 out of 100 for the total score, which is a very good pour. Man, that's really good when you consider it 16. The thing that holds this one back is just the lack of complexity. I mean, that's really it. Um, and you're simply just everything that it's doing is just baseline good. It's just a good pour. So when I recommend this, I'm going to recommend this 8 out of 10. I think there's some people who just won't explore it for being a bottom shelf screw top. I won't waste my time on people that only drink Weller. Like, oh, hey, you should drink JW Dant and get to know it. They ain't going to care. So that's kind of my reason for bringing it down just a little bit to the 8 out of 10 is that no matter what I say about this pour and how good it is, there are some people that just won't dive into it despite the fact that it's only $16. But man, talk about a perfect bottle to bring tailgating. Oh man, I can just imagine even in the parking lot of a football game or a college football game, just drinking this and being perfectly fine with it. Bet you it holds up to some cubes too, being it's 100 proof. Do I plan to buy another? Yeah, I plan to have this one around. I'm going to push this one on people. I'm not going to tell them how much it is. And I'm going to sneak this into blinds every now and then. But don't tell Darrell and Kelsey that I plan to sneak it into blinds, because we know that, they're not watching these, because Kelsey's totally not going to call me out, 120 seconds from now. But that's the scores for the JW Dant. Hey, man, what more can you expect from $16? That's perfect. That's a great bottle right there. Well, thanks for joining today, everybody. That breaks down the JW Dant. Oh, actually, before we go, I also got a little tiny sample bottle here. I'm actually really excited to get into this, by the way. So I'm going to turn 40 here in just like a few weeks' time. And I have been collecting samples from 1983. And I've got one here of a JW Dant from 1983. So I get to explore that. That's going to be fun. I'm going to get a few more of these. Right now I got an Eagle Rare too, but I plan to get a few more. So that breaks down the JW Dant. Thanks for joining me today, whiskey friends. I'll catch you next time. Bye, everybody.
Jeff, just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again. Oh, Jeffrey, you should just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again. Oh, Jeffrey, you should just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello.